little bit just because I can see you better and because I've been sitting a lot. Hi, Ochako. Hi, everybody. Yay! Well, you probably know who I am. That is why you are here. I'm Lucy. I have had the good fortune of being in this industry for almost 20 years, a long time. I came into anime right when what used to be ADV Films was really expanding. And I just happened to hit there at that time when their studio was going, and they were getting tons and tons of properties. And my very first anime lead was in Full Metal Panic as Kaname Chidori.
Yeah,
It was super fun. I did not know what I was doing. In fact, I thought I was terrible at dubbing. I was shocked that they invited me to that audition. And but I got that role, and it led to everything else, honestly, because maybe a year or two later, I was at a convention just like this. I ran into Mike McFarland, and he said, "Oh, hey, I just watched your work in Full Metal Panic." That was really awesome. I'm working on a little show called Full Metal Alchemist, and I'm wondering if you would like to come up and do an episode character, and we will pay you, and that can kind of be your audition for Funimation, which is an awesome way to audition for a company. Like, I was paid to go up and be Siren, the thief, the cat burglar or whatever, in episode 10 of Full Metal Alchemist as my audition for Funimation. And then when it was time, so that led to like Gunslinger Girl. There were all these things that were kind of right there in the beginning. And then when the auditions for Wrath came up for Full Metal Alchemist, I was there. So I got to play him as well. But that's how he ended up mostly in those two studios. I worked primarily for them. I've been out to California before. Those guys are awesome. I've worked a little bit out of New York with NYAV Post. Are they still out there?
Yes.
Or are they bi-coastal now?
They have one studio in New York and a satellite studio in California.
That's right. When they were still only in New York, I flew out there to work with Mike Sinter-Nicholas on Dance Dance Revolution for the Xbox 360.
Wow.
And the story about that is that it was super fun. It was great. The Konami people were there in the studio, and it was intense. You guys doing that like high energy stuff for 4 hours through workout mode and all of the different modes is intense. I was super sweaty. But I was in a Best Buy with my husband, who I think was my boyfriend then, and I heard my voice, and it was the game. So I ran over and I was like, "It's my game!" And I started trying to play the thing, and I told myself that I suck. Like I was heckling my own self for doing badly. I told myself, I was like, "Well, I can't play the game for you," and just being really snotty to my own self playing the game. Anywho, question and answer things go better when there are questions. So let's do that, and everything will come from that. Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Michael. Have you met before?
Hi, Michael, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I remember that time working out to when I was one guy on the day of the second season called Full Metal Panic from Osu.
Yes.
Well, the real question is, if Kaname Chiguri saw Sosuke Sakura around the deck with Tessa in the music park, was he be pissed off?
I do think so. He's asking a Full Metal Panic question. He's saying if Sosuke went on a date with Tessa, would Kaname have opinions about that? And I am 100% sure that she would. Sure.
I think what I'm trying to add is, once what Kaname Chiguri see Sosuke Sakura when I there with Tessa at the music park, would she be pissed off?
She absolutely would be.
Okay.
Yes, she absolutely would be. Somebody would be hit with a fan. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to be E. That guy asked, is there one, if you can't talk about it, it's fine, is there more One Piece stuff on the table, or?
One Piece dub is the question. I get it a lot on Twitter, and I mostly just ignore it. I know that is like awful, but I don't know how to say because I don't know.
Right, I think.
We have wishes and dreams. But as far as I know, that's all they are wishes and dreams. I do think it's hopeful that we continue to dub the movies. I think it is hopeful that last year we went to New York Comic Con and there was a big One Piece push, and we met the Toei people, and there was a One Piece cafe that was super cool. And so I would like to believe that since we're still investing in the title, that eventually we will get to do that.
Right, I know it's.
Please know that all of this.
Anniversary, and they're doing this big super movie.
Right. And I heard, I was not out at AX, but I knew that they were doing a 20th anniversary push. They videoed us doing various things. I know some people, I'm sure, hoped that they would make an announcement about the dub. We're all waiting for that. But I'm going to choose to be positive. I feel positively about that. I mean, that show, that was 10 years of my life I've been working on that show. I still remember, can I tell you the One Piece story?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the One Piece story. This is the tea in the One Piece story.
We like tea.
Well, I know, right? So I'm not going to bash what 4Kids did. They had the show, and they did what they did with it. And I don't know what caused Toei to take the property back. But Funimation ended up with the property. And everybody and their dog read for that show because you watch a ton of anime. The shows that have that much work are few, right? And so everybody was like, I would love that job security. Everybody read for the show. And then Mike McFarland chose maybe the top 5 of each Straw Hat to, he kind of whittled it down, and he sent his top 5 picks to Toei, and Toei cast the show. So I remember being in my house in Houston, getting that phone call from Mike going, honey, they want you for Nami, but you need to know what you're getting into. You live there, and it happens here, and this is years of work. And I was like, let me think about that. Yes. Yes. I will do that. I will sign on for that. So that's how that happened. And we were under a broadcast deadline because 4Kids still had this deal. The show had this deal. And so we suddenly went from being like, oh, we are auditioning for this show. And then, oh, you're cast in this show. And now this batch of episodes is due to the TV people in 2 weeks. So we had 3 different studios going at Funimation, all recording One Piece. And it was so new to all of us that I'm not even kidding. We were literally running from studio to studio going, how are you saying this person's name?
Oh my God.
Let's at least be consistent in what we're doing because we were picking up in episode 100 something. That's where they were in the broadcast schedule. I had never seen any of the prior episodes. So that was my introduction to One Piece. It was very woo, here we are. And when and I still remember the nerves when it premiered on TV, when our dub premiered on TV, and we were all so flippin' nervous. I'm just hoping that people would like it, because it's hard. When something has been given a voice by somebody else, change is hard. And it's weird and it's jarring. And so we were just hopeful that it would work out. And it has worked out. It's so great. But when we got to go back, it's awesome, right? When we got to go back, we recorded, I forget how far we went before we got to go back and start at episode 1. And then I finally got to see Nami's backstory and was like, oh. The feels, man, all that, the whole Arlong arc, all of that was just, and I sometimes think it was really interesting how I didn't know all that about her in the beginning. And I got to discover that about her later. But I have I have the Funimation app on my phone. And I have gone back and started over at episode 1 of One Piece. Because I've forgotten so many things, and sometimes people ask things and I don't remember. So I was like, I'll just watch them. And it's fun to see them again from the beginning. Like how it all happened. Yes, I'm gonna work. We'll get everybody, promise. Yes. Ears, yes.
Yes, ears. First of all, I'm a huge fan. I really love your work.
Thank you.
I especially love Honey Senpai.
Oh, thank you. You're such a cinnamon bun. Oh my gosh.
So, my question is, I know dubbing for anime is different than dubbing for American cartoons because the lines are already done by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the translations happen, do you get the script and then do you audition, or do they let you know when they're done translating and then you get the script and then you audition?
So the way it generally goes is we will just get a call from, at Funimation it's Tara, at Sentai it is Paul, Sentai, ADV is now Sentai. And they will say, Colleen or Caitlin or Kyle would like to see you for an audition. How is Monday or Tuesday for you? And you just say, oh, go in. And sometimes they tell you what it is and sometimes they do not. And when you get there, there's usually some sides, like a little binder with information about the show and the different characters. And you can choose, like if you can say, I really want to read for her, most of the time they have an idea of what they want you to read for, if they've asked you there. And then when you get cast, then I'm not sure how the timing of all the translation stuff happens. I know that somebody in the other side of the building is translating, and then they're giving it to a writer, and they're writing it. And by the time I go in, there's a script there. It's different now in the land of simuldubs, because we're working on generally one script at a time instead of batches of scripts like we're more used to. But yeah, and at Funimation, I know on the simuldub schedule, like they are working constantly. Translators translating, the writers writing to get that stuff turned around and into the hands. Like we were just doing Strike Witches, which is a super fun show. We just dubbed the last episode of that, and they were working around the clock to meet those deadlines. It's totally different now with simuldubs.
And also, going in on that, when you get casted, are you given like a concept sheet of what the character looks like, or you just go straight in?
You usually get a sheet of like, it'll be in a binder though. It'll be in a binder. Or, I mean, sometimes you go in and they'll say, there's not a binder, but this is a harem show, and there are, you know, she's 12, and she's the one, right? And she's the one who loves, I'm like, what was that show a million years ago? Oh gosh, I can't. Sister Princess, was that the one? I had glasses, I think, and she's young, and she's kind of a Sherlock Holmesy little girl, and they'll give you things like that. They'll give you general age, they'll give you this stuff, and they'll show you what she looks like. They'll be like, it's the one with the green hair, or the blue hair, or the pink hair, and you'll watch the audition scene. You'll get to watch it with the script, and you can always say, can I watch that one more time? You know. But then you just go for it, and you try to give voice to that person, and that's kind of how it goes. It's kind of a weird thing, but that is what it is. Yes.
Thank
yes. Oh, hang on one second, I'm gonna fall. Yes.
Out of the characters that you voice, do you ever ship them with other characters?
Sometimes. I sometimes do. I usually don't unless it's suggested by the script, because most of the time, so the weird thing about dubbing is it is an art form, but it is a very technical art form. I'm just trying mostly to figure out how these words fit in those flaps with the right emotion to go with what's there. You know, with the story and what is there that has been drawn. And so a lot of times as you're reading, you're in the scene and playing the scene, but you also have a really logical part of your brain that is just following the timing. And so it's easy to think of like ships and stuff when it's people like Ochako, who, you know, Aoyama mentions Deku or that I have feelings for someone, and she's just like, and can't function for a moment until so. But if it's not suggested, I don't normally go there. Yes. Until I go to clients and people go, have you ever shipped so and so and so and so? And I go, oh, amazing. Although I will say, somebody asked me if I shipped Nami and Sanji. Or actually they said, do you ship Nami and Sanji or Nami and Luffy? And Colleen and I were both like, Luffy does not ship. Unless it's like meat. He might ship meat. But I think Nami wouldn't ship anyone. I think she is fine. Yes, I think she would be like, I am feeling affectionate tonight. And now I am done. Like, let us go plunder now. Yes. 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 Hi.
So
How was your singing?
I did really, really well. There was a huge reception and somebody gave me a gift and I cried.
Oh, that's
It
awesome.
was so sweet.
Good
So
job.
thank you so much for the good luck, by the way.
Oh, you got
really,
it.
really helped me.
You got it.
Thank you. And, I had a question. So, what was your favorite comedic role, dramatic role, and what's your process of creating a character?
My favorite comedic role might be, I was a terrible teacher in a show called Azumanga Daioh. And I loved her. Her drunk scenes gave me life. It's just hilarious, that show. And my favorite dramatic might be, there's so much drama. Oh my gosh. Dramatic. You know what? I'm going to go with one that I don't say very often. There was also a show that, it was in the Canon family called Air TV. And it's so good. And I play a mother in that one. And she's also kind of a mess. And I say those because they're not the norm of what I play. I play lots of super fun girls and boys. But those were kind of different for me at the time. And my process is generally, I stay real loose about my work. I tend to not have really hard ideas about who people are or what they should sound like. I want to be open to take advice and direction from the director. They always have an idea of what they want and what they're looking for. And so I don't actually do funny voices that much, but what I am good at is taking some words and looking at a picture and making the words sound like they're coming from that person. And that is all I really care about, that seems to go together, that it makes sense. And it's just a kind of a loose process. I just try to go into the booth really open to that. You also have to kind of be willing to sound a fool.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're just gonna sound a little ridiculous until you find what's going on and have to kind of be fine with that, you know. Yes?
Yeah, so what do you think about for the Full Metal turn to a live action Japanese movie on Netflix?
Is that happening?
I mean, yeah.
Did it happen?
Yeah.
Is it a Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes. It was
Live action movie? Why don't I even know
Japanese. It's Japanese.
that? Is it on Netflix?
On
This
Netflix.
guy's like, no.
It is.
Don't watch it.
It is.
Oh, you are killing me.
I'm Japanese.
Okay. I will check it out and report back to you.
Yeah, it is on Netflix.
I think that's interesting. I get it, right?
Yeah.
I think there is something to the fact that you guys, the market, has driven anime so much that studios are paying attention and they're going, oh, hey, let's turn this into a major motion picture. You know what? I think that is ultimately a compliment to our industry, that it's becoming more and more popular. But yeah, that's the thing, right? Taking something that is fantasy and drawn and created for a certain medium may not always translate. Or it would be difficult. It's just a different thing. It's a different medium. I'll check it out though.
It was by
I'm
Warner
open.
Brothers.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Yes?
All right. For My Hero, your favorite pro hero and your favorite villain.
My favorite villain is probably Stain.
Oh! Stain!
My favorite pro hero, oh, I just love the pro heroes. Probably, I really love them all for different reasons. Well, Mr. Aizawa is my favorite, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
But they all have, so that's, I'm just gonna tell you right now, this is what I love about our show. I think My Hero, besides the fact that it's just a great show, the message of My Hero is such a positive one and resonates. I think it's part of why it's so popular, because what it says, what the show says is, you may have the weirdest little quirk, you may not be All Might, or whatever, it may be something, but there is a space, there's space for you. You have something to do here, right? You matter. Your gift matters, and it's worthy of pursuing and exploring and valuing and elevating and all of that stuff. And I think you see that in all the heroes, with all of their differences and how they're good at their thing, you know? And I like it when they're like, oh, we're battling this huge monster. We are not right to battle this one. I hope someone comes along who has the right skill. And that's like life. That's like teamwork. You know, we're not all good at the same thing. And I love it. Yes, in the back. You, sir, muscle man shirt. You. Oh no, you're looking behind you, but I mean you. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry, Michael.
It's okay.
I'm just going back. I'm trying to let people answer who haven't asked yet. Okay? Or
That's
asked.
all right.
Yes.
Which arc of One Piece, I have many questions, but this one is probably the one that I've been pondering just a few minutes ago. What's been your favorite arc of One Piece to do, and what's your least favorite one that you've done?
Oh, Lord. Well, Arlong was my favorite.
Hated that one, hated all along.
Well, yes. So, for different reasons, right? So, he's awful. There was a lot of rough about that. But because I had none of that information about her, it was all a revelation. It was just and I couldn't wait for it to be over. Do you know what I mean? I was like, please resolve this. And let's all be free of this. But I was just super invested in it. And so I'll say that it's, well, probably my favorite and my least favorite. But I'll tell you, one of my other, I'm not sure if I could say like what my least favorite one. You know what I'll tell you though? My favorite character that surprises me, Buggy the Pirate, is my favorite. And I will use the word flashily, like with reckless abandon, after sort of revisiting it in my rewatching of this show. I texted Mike McFarland and I was like, you flashily are giving me life right now. You and your pirate are wonderful. So many of the villains in that show are fan-flipping-tastic. It's so good. And you guys have to understand, dubbing One Piece, at one point, there was a rumor that they were going to try to simul-dub One Piece, and the directors wanted to revolt. Because if you can imagine wrangling enough fishmen and Navy and Marines and townspeople and God knows who else in that world for every week. Yes, the One Piece world is a weird anomaly of all of the shows I've ever worked on. Yeah.
That's another statement.
Yeah. Even, I'll tell you, even arcs that like directors were like, this is not my favorite, I found really entertaining. I enjoyed that whole arc where they were like at that, where were they? Which arc was that when they were in the haunted island? The haunted. Yes! I got tremendous joy out of all of that. I bet it was hilarious. Hilarious.
Ms. Lucy, thank you for answering my question, and I'm looking forward for your future anime work.
Thank
And
you.
I hope it turned out wonderful.
Thank Thank you, Michael.
Take care.
Bye, hun. Nice talking to
And
you.
one day, our child will become a great poor hero.
I hope so. I hope so. So she can make her
So she
parents'
can
lives
save
easier.
people's lives and reach to her dreams.
Yes. I like how practical she is.
Go beyond.
Yes. Go
Plus
beyond.
Ultra.
Plus Ultra, sir. Yes.
Take care.
Red shirt. Yes.
Actually, first off, it was great meeting you at the autograph line yesterday where we had our moment about Rico from Gunslinger Girls.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And my question is, since with Full Metal Panic, you get to play off Chris Patton a lot, and playing off Chris Patton can be kind of insane.
Yes.
Especially when you're
Yes.
a straight man. But since when you've done anime, it's you alone in the booth. But when you get to hear other people's voices that have heard before you, who do you think you play off best besides Chris?
Oh, that's a good question. So, Patton and I, our voices were married for many, many shows there for a while. A whole bunch. And that was super fun for both of us. Like, we enjoyed that. I'll tell you, it's always a surprise because the process is so separated out. You never see everybody's work together until you go and find it. And sometimes we don't get a DVD. Like we would have to, I downloaded the Funimation app and became a subscriber so that I could stream all of my heroes, right? I didn't own it all. And so I needed to be able to watch it all. And I've been in this industry 19 years. I was blown away by her dub. I was blown away listening to the work of my fellow actors. They are so good. And that's how it's supposed to be, right? Is when you listen to something, we never have the full picture. The directors are the ones that are driving that whole thing. So I think my voice I've been working with Monica for years and years and years. I've been working with Greg for years and years and years. In fact, if you want to hear like a little trifecta of very not appropriate awesomeness, go find a show called MR.GEEKMEOUT Brothers. And me, Greg, and Chris Patton are highly inappropriate. It's so good, you guys. It's an anime musical. It's fantastic.
Is that the panda one?
That's the panda one. The panda love. Just say no to cousin love. It's all fine. It's fine, you guys. It's fine. Yes, in the back. Yes.
Did Alois break your heart?
Alois did break my heart. And you know what I love today? There's Alois right there. Today, I had two back-to-back people. One person going, I loved your work, except for Alois, he's terrible. And I was like, I feel you. Like, I can see that. I know where you're coming from. And then I have another person come up and go, Alois is my favorite character ever. He is such a cream puff. I can see your point. I see you. Like, I love that he's the character that people feel that way about, that they're either like, ah, or I love him, he's my favorite. Yes. So the audition scene, I told this at the table today, the audition scene for Black Butler for Alois was the scene with the maid with the eyeballs. That was the audition scene. So just in case you didn't know what you were getting into, that was that. And you had your opportunity to say, no thank you. I did not say that. I was just like, okay, this is what we're doing today. Crazy times. Yes, and then you. Yes, ma'am?
So have you ever read the script and realized that your character's going too far?
Too far. Yes, I'm sure that is true. I'm doing this also because I'm stretching, because it feels good. Yes, that has definitely happened before. There have been quite a few times where I was like, wow, this is what we're doing today. Yes. And you just most of the time you just go, okay, this is what I signed up for today. And there's also sometimes where you're playing a character that they go too far. It's not that it's wrong or anything, but you're just like, wow, they really do not care. Some of Medusa in Soul Eater was hard. because she does not care, and poor Krona.
Yeah.
Like that's hard, some of that is hard to watch, I feel. And I'm a mom, it was very, so whenever I sign anything for Medusa, I always write like, #1 mom. Where's my cup? You know, like, yes. You? Yes?
My question was, you said you were rewatching One Piece. Is it weird hearing yourself like?
It's super weird. It's weird to hear all of us, to be honest. Like, just to imagine, I've known these people, our voices have been playing on this particular show for over 10 years. And so it feels very nostalgic. Really nostalgic is how I feel about that. And I feel, you know, it's like Nabi in the beginning and you don't know all of these things that are, these hundreds of episodes that are gonna happen, and she's just like, I hate pirates. You know, I'm never gonna be a pirate, they suck. So, yeah, it's weird, it's weird. Yes? Yes?
Do you have a most memorable character that you have voiced that's like very memorable for you?
Most memorable character. I'll tell you my first favorite. My first favorite character that made me love anime was Duck and Tutu from Princess Tutu.
Oh my god, thank you! Thank you!
Everybody has their show. Some people, like I got to hear this weekend, Oron is a lot of people's show. Whatever show it is that got you in, that made you love anime, mine was Princess Tutu.
Oh.
And my daughter cosplayed Tutu last weekend. So I was at Hobby Lobby figuring out how to make a necklace, you know, and doing all of that. But that was my first show that I fell in love with. And I was super invested in it. And there's video evidence on YouTube where I am bawling my eyes out watching the end of that series. Could not handle it. It was so hard! I am crying. I'm just bawling there. I loved it. I loved it. Yes, sir?
What was the character that you had like the most difficulty voicing?
The character that was hardest to voice. There is a weird and wonderful show out there called Magical Shopping Arcade Abanabashi.
Yes.
And you should check it out. It is a weird show. Super good. Weird as an understatement. It's weird. But Sashi, I play a little boy named Sashi, and he has an accent, and there were many things to contend with. And our director was tough. I love him. We have a great relationship, but he was tough on us, and he was tough on me. And he expected a certain level of excellence, and we didn't have that much time. So I was losing my voice while we were trying to get these episodes done. And it's super talky. I mean, it's great. But that was the toughest role. That was the hardest one to do. Although it was also the show that has one of my favorite lines I've ever said in it. For sheer what is happening. Sashi, there are all these worlds that they visit. And Sashi, they're on this world, and Sashi has to relieve himself, like people do. And he walks to the edge of the world, and sort of lets it go. And you just see sort of the universe, and then this yellow liquid going off into the abyss. And his words are, oh man, there's just something so sci-fi about pissing off into space. It's so funny. It was so funny, and it was great. But that was the toughest. And in fact, my director was very kind at the very end. This is how long ago it was. The last DVD, at the end of the DVD, there was this black screen, and it came up, "Rest in peace, Luci Christian's vocal cords." And over it, he put one of my mammoth screams of all this stuff, and it's the toughest. But I'm really proud of the work. It's a great show. Yes, sir? Yes.
Yes, okay. There are 3 people in front of us.
Yeah.
Alright. First of all, I just want to say, like, awesome.
Thank you.
I remember, like, one of my first anime I ever watched, knowing that it was anime, was Full Metal Panic. You did Konami Theory, like, one of my favorite roles of yours.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. But my question, kind of related to that. So you've been in the industry for a long time, so wanted to know what it was like working for ADV back then, because I know it's just like what you said, you're basically married to a lot of the same characters, same people who are playing. So I just wanted to know, like, what's some things that have changed over the years, and how, what was ADV like really like back then?
Oh, what a nostalgic question. I almost wish Monica was here. So ADV back in the day, and people at Funimation would have their own version of an answer that were in the beginning, right, of these companies. ADV was the most fun place I'd ever worked. It was so fun. It's still my anime home. A lot of the people who run and work at Sentai worked at ADV. We would have so much time. I'd get a phone call from Paul that would say, so honey, we have 25 hours for you for Super Gals, and we're gonna record it all in May. Where do you want to put those hours, right? And I would just get out my calendar and I would put 3 hours here, 3 hours, 4 hours here, and we would schedule that out. And that would be for the first volume of Super Gals. Remember that? Remember that, you guys? The first volume. And now, that would be, hey, Miss Lucy, we need you for all of Super Gals, the first season of Super Gals, and it should be about 29 hours. We think we can do it in 20. And we need it done, we're gonna be recording it over these 2 weeks. That is the difference now. It's different. The time is so condensed. And they used to do line counts, like they would do a really low line count. So for people like us, we would go in and finish way early because we could get through many more lines than the average bear in an hour. And it's just a lot more efficient. Some of that is great, but I do miss having a little more time. You know, it's just totally different in that respect now. But yeah, there for a while, like we would just see each other. They had this communal space in the middle where people would just hang out and wait for their session, and we would pass each other in the halls, and it was so fun. They had these video games out there, and the studio just went from this many studios to 8. And I mean, it just expanded so quickly. And when it went bankrupt, when ADV went bankrupt, it devastated a lot of people. I and other people, all of my work was not there. So it did not devastate me, except for the sadness of, but they came back. I mean, that's the thing. They've risen from the ashes as Sentai and are doing some great things. So that's awesome. But it really was. And also because we were looked at as being kind of weird dubbing cowboys because we didn't use any beeps. Everybody uses the beep system. Does everybody know what this is? Or
Yes,
no?
yes.
We do. This guy's like, I do not. So what they do in LA and at Funimation, they have in the track, for the pre-track, they have 3 beeps. And where the 4th beep would be is where your line starts. So you'll watch it in Japanese first to see what's going on, but then when you go to record it, it'll be silent. And you just know that the track will go beep, beep, beep. And where that 4th beep is where you go, oh my gosh, you got it. You know, that's where your line starts. So ADV has always used the chase method, where there is no beep. They do not take out the Japanese. We are recording over the Japanese. They're underneath, the voices are underneath. And when you see the mouth open, you just start talking. And because now with Pro Tools, the engineer just goes, you know, they put it where it goes. But back when they had tapes and things like that, the beeps really helped with placement and stuff. But now that I work at Funimation, you know, I still will come in late on the beeps every time because I learned at ADV and I will watch for that flip and flap. I will watch for it before I open my mouth. I'm just trained that way, you know. And sometimes I will ask them to leave the Japanese in for the timing of it because that's how I learned. That's how I learned. they're super cool. Now that there's not as much, there used to be big rivalries. It's not as much like that, I feel. Yes. Yes.
Was there ever a character that you loved before you knew that it was going to be picked up and that you were excited to audition for?
No. I don't think so. She asked if there was ever a character that I already knew about and was excited, like wanted to voice before it was picked up. And I have not had that experience yet. It will happen to me at some point, I'm sure. But that's never happened. It has to other people. I will tell you this, I've seen that happen to people and they've been bit by it. Because they knew something was coming and they were excited about it and then they didn't get cast. Or didn't get what they wanted. And that is a recipe for nothing good. Because this is the truth. The directors, they never want to work with anybody who's mad at them. And they don't want to ask questions about why they cast somebody or not. And so sometimes it's better to just kind of not know, I guess. It can be helpful. Yes, sir?
Yes. So I kind of a silly question, but something I like to think about. So say Wrath, your Wrath,
Yes.
runs into Brotherhood Wrath. And they decide to have their own little contest, confrontation about who the real Wrath is. Who do you think comes out on top?
My Wrath! I pick my Wrath because my Wrath, I love him. He had to overcome so much and he just wanted a mom, man. Like, and then he owned that movie when he fought Gluttony. That was like, what? Oh, dang it.
I haven't seen it.
Well, keep going. I haven't told you. There's many things you should totally watch. There are many things. Many things. So that's one that in the future when my girls are old enough, I can't wait to introduce them to the Full Metal world. I have a list of things for like when they're old enough. Right? It's judicious, right?
It's
like
right now you're probably doing like Princess Tutu and Pre-Tier.
Yes, Princess Tutu. Pre-Tier would be a great one. I haven't introduced that yet. Princess Tutu, they've watched some of My Hero. They've watched some of, when they were littler, I let them watch DigiCarrot. Yeah. Somebody brought me some DigiCarrot, and we did some, of course, Hello Kitty. Of course.
That helps because I like your Wrath more too, but everyone I know has a thing for swords.
Yes.
So Brotherhood Wrath always takes it for them, and I'm the weirdo.
And Brotherhood is awesome. I mean, I'll give it up, even though I'm a sucker for like earlier. I'm a sucker for the old. Yes. Yes.
How is it for your kids, like hearing your voice in these different shows?
My kids are just figuring out what I do. Like they're starting to just understand the larger world of it, I think. But like Mama has a studio at home that I go in to record books and stuff. And so they, I think they're starting to take pride in it. They are very discerning little people. Like,
Oh boy.
I've ruined them for read-alouds. In fact, I'm a reader at their school. I go and read to the kids at our school. Yeah, I think it's a little weird for them. But they're proud, like they're starting to tell. They were at Anime Midwest with me last week, and whenever they saw Ochakos, they would go up and be like, "Your Ochako is great. My mom voices her." So, and that's a first. Also, we did, there's a sweet show, oh gosh, what is it? Mitsubashi Colors that we did, and we were watching it in Houston they did an Alamo screening, and I took my kids, because that show's all right. And during the Q&A, my own 9-year-old was like, "I just want to say that I think my mom has a real talent for this." And it was surprisingly affirming for me. Like, I got kind of teary, like, I didn't know I needed that, but it was great. Yes?
Did you ever have a role that you turned down that you regret turning down?
Oh gosh, not that I can think of. I don't think so. I have turned down shows before, because of timing, I've probably turned down some shows for content that I don't even remember what they are. And let me tell you, that happens, and it's never a big deal. There are various reasons why people will do a show or not do a show, and I have never known a director to be weird about that, ever. And even while I say there are some shows I've turned down for content, there are other shows I've done that you would wonder why I did not turn that down for content. There are shows where we have aliases, which is hilarious. Most people know all of our aliases, but they always ask. But I can't think of something that I've turned down that I regretted. I don't turn down much. I don't turn down much. Aloise? Yes?
Which character was like the most fun to voice?
The most fun to voice. I'm gonna keep doing like weird shows that don't get any play because somebody brought this show up to me today. There's a weird little show out there that's probably not aged well, but it's great, called Super Gals. I adored that show. Everybody who worked on that show had I mean, it was so much fun for us. And it's all about shopping and turf wars. And like, it is great. It is super fun. I used to watch it to get Jazz to go to conventions back when I first started going to conventions. Because it just put me in such a happy mood. I love it.
And the sad part is ADV didn't get season 2.
I know, super bummer, man. It was such a good show, it was so funny. Yes.
Have you been recognized outside of conventions, like regular public settings? And has there been any stories that you can tell that are?
There are sometimes times, because I also have done some on-camera work. Every now and then I get recognized for something, because I do commercials, especially around Houston. But for voice work, this is pretty awesome. We went to a birthday party recently at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. And my daughter was totally acting up, and I was giving her what for. I had it. It was actually not a great mom moment. But and I'd been talking to other moms in the room earlier, and I was outside with my daughter, like being like, just sit there. You do not get to go inside and have a cupcake, you know, or whatever. And I sat her down, and I turned around, and there's the lady who's helping with the party, like the museum person, and she goes, did I hear you say you're a voice actor? And I was like, hello. Yes, and she goes, did I hear you say you're in My Hero? Yes, I am. You know, and she was like, oh my God! You know, and there was this moment. But I was not in that headspace at all. That was not what I was giving off at all. Oh man, that was the most recent. That's the most recent one. Yes, sir.
Hi, have you ever tried work outside anime?
Have I tried work outside of anime? Yes. In fact, so this is where I get to say that if anime were my only bread and butter, I would not be able to support myself. And especially go back, like I know that everything has become monetized at conventions. If I took a 5-year break and came back to conventions and was like, what is happening? It did not used to be like that at all. And voiceover work is a one and done kind of thing. So My Hero may become the most popular thing ever, but I'm never going to receive any more money from that show than what I did recording it. And so that's the nature of our work. So I have always, I've been a professional actor for 21 years. And I have always had a basket full of goodies, and that is how I do my work. I do anime work, I do commercial work, I do e-learning work, and horrible, boring training videos, and just about anything. I do audiobooks, I have done on-camera work. I used to, before I let go, I was 33 when I let go of my day job. And that was like working at, for a job share team at a Hispanic broadcasting radio station. What? Yes, yes. It was awesome because they knew every job I've ever had was always like, I need flexible hours because I'm an actor. I have to be able to go audition. And I always managed to cobble these cool jobs together. And then when I was 33, I was working for ADV, I was working for Funimation, doing all this stuff. My agency, I had some gigs through my agent that were very regular, and I pried my day job out of my little hands and said, just do it. I think I can do it. That's what I do. And I have some clients who I'm on retainer for them. Like one of my weird clients that I'm on retainer for is this guy. I've worked with him for 10 years. He's out in West Houston, and he does casino spots. Are his bread and butter. There are no casinos in Houston, but he does them for various casinos in New England, actually. Most of them are in New England. Some of them are in Vegas. And it's all those bumpers, like while you're sitting there playing blackjack or whatever, and over the thing, it's like, hey, Thursday in the Suncoast showroom, there's gonna be this cover band, and it's blah, blah, blah. So I'm his female voice. I've been doing that for 10 years. And every month, I have a certain amount of money that he pays me every month to go out there a couple times a month and say things like, Def Leppard. Or pretend that I'm British for some, like there's this, what is that? There's some nightclub, and I just put on this really British sounding thing. And he puts on this crazy filter and this techno music behind him, whatever, I don't know. I'm getting this. But anyway, yes, I have this basket of goodies, and the reason I do is this work is not kind. It is constantly coming and going. We are always hustling for work. And people will come and go for no good reason. They may get tired of my voice working with me for so long, or we're constantly being replaced or said no to. And I have this group of things that I do because if one leaves for a while, I don't want it to affect my mortgage. Right? I need to be able to pay for my life and for my kids and all that stuff. And so I have a basket of goodies that sustains me. So that if a company goes bankrupt, I am not sunk also, right? And as a contractor, you just have to work that way and think that way. So any burning desires? Any burning questions? Oh, this is so hard. Lightsaber. Awesome.
If you got your choice of a character from My Hero that's not Ochaka the voice, who would you pick?
Oh! Probably Froppy. Probably. Oh, they're all so good. Todoroki. That could be showed up, yeah. Or, I don't know. That's the thing. They're all so awesome. One more. Yeah. Yes. Super yeah. Yes.
What character was most difficult for you to play? Maybe like complexity or...
I'm going to pick that same one I said a while ago. I think Sashi from Magical Shopping Arcade Amadabashi was the hard. I know, right? Saying that is like a mouthful. It's like you have marbles in your mouth. Yes.
So I plan on going into animation, and if I go to Ringling, which is in Sarasota, do you think I might actually be able to work for storyboarding and Funimation?
I don't know. Maybe. Try it. Go for it. If not, make your stuff. Make your own stuff and put it on the internet. Make things you're proud of and find a way to put yourself out there. That's something we didn't have that you guys have. I encourage you to do that. Just make sure you like it and you're proud of it, because it will follow you around, right? Yes. Blue. Yes.
What was it like voice acting for Lena Lee?
Lena Lee! I loved her. I wrote most of the first season of D-Grayman. And so that's when I learned that when you're writing for Todd Haberkorn, you have to put more words in the sentence. Because he talks faster than a normal person. I write for him and me totally differently in that show. I loved being her, and I was so glad that they brought that show back. Like, thank you. What? So happy. Yes, yes, yes.
I was wondering if you're going to be at the autograph thing tomorrow?
I am. In fact, I'm going to come in early. Me and Jamie. Jamie has been my helper all weekend. Jamie, we will be over there doing a paid signing at 11, because I'm not supposed to be signing until I think 1. But we'll sign at 11 over at a different booth, and then at 1, we'll all be back at the regular place. Yes, sir. And then you.
What would you say is your favorite anime that you have voiced and haven't voiced?
I wish I was in Cowboy Bebop. We should just fix that. And my favorite that I have done, I'm gonna say right now, My Hero. It's easy, but after being in this for all these years, I've never had a show do what that show has done. And it couldn't happen to a better show. Like, I feel incredibly lucky to be a part of that show. Yes.
When I originally heard a lot about animated voice acting, and even voice acting in general, I never really got that people would like play different gendered voices all the time. So, so what is the hardest thing to do, going and doing a very high voice or doing a very low voice? Because the first time I ever heard your voice was actually in Oron.
Yeah.
The first anime I ever actually finished.
Yeah.
But and I didn't realize until later that you had done that voice, because it's very, very high.
It's super high.
Like, so which is harder, higher or lower?
For me, lower is harder. He's saying which is more difficult. So Honey is like the, no, Tamaki, please don't take my snacks, please. You know, he's way up there. But Medusa and those are harder for me. The breath control is so different. I have to work harder to push out a low voice. And so it's just different. But generally you give yourself a parameter. Like you go, this is this character. Honey lives here. And as long as I stay in there, it sounds like him. When I start going out, it starts sounding too girly or too different or like somebody else. So you just have to give your character walls. It's weird to say, but you keep your voice inside a certain parameter. Even for Eloise, you just have to find where they live and not deviate from it much, and that's how you know. They are, look, they're gonna drag me. Mary is like, you are done, sister. But you guys, you have been wonderful. These are awesome questions, and thank you so much. Thank you. Best panel ever. Ever.